everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. It's 7:12, which means I get to apologize because we are starting late. We ran over a little bit in close, so thank you for giving us a moment just to catch our breath coming back up to open. So I'll ask the coordinator to call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Rollins?
Here.
Ms. Muhammad?
Here.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Here.
Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 7 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll take a moment for silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I'd like to remind everybody that the mission of the Rockford Public Schools is to collaboratively engage all students in first-class education for a changing world. Before we go any further, Connor is behind the scenes. Connor Childers, he produces the board's broadcast via YouTube live stream as well as Comcast Channel 20. I also wish to welcome Superintendent Student Advisory Council Representative Kylie Olenichek. There we go. And you're here and you're from Jefferson High School. We're glad to have you. We'll now take an opportunity to celebrate the Rockford Public Schools. Carolyn Tim, principal at Cherry Elementary School. I'd ask you to come to the podium and push the button so we can hear you and they can hear you over the airwaves, and the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you for having us. So good evening, Board of Education and meeting guests. We would like to share with you how at Cherry Valley we are supporting the district's universal goal for elementary literacy. My name is Carolyn Tim. I'm building principal at Cherry Valley, and with me tonight is Amy Powell, our assistant principal, Amanda Coons, our instructional coach, and Angel Ballard, an instructional coach and Title I teacher. She's super talented and does 2 jobs. So the Cherry Valley school-wide literacy goal is aligned with the district's goal, which is we expect all students to be able to read at grade level by the end of 3rd grade. Since 2019, our focus has been on small group literacy instruction, also referred to as guided reading. This instruction is skill-focused and differentiated to meet students where they are at. Our approach to small group literacy instruction has been to provide consistent Tier 1 instruction in small groups, use high-quality texts and resources, and build the instructional capacity of classroom teachers. In 2019, we evaluated our current level of instruction around small group literacy to begin building from where we were at. Teachers were first introduced to the Jan Richardson guided reading framework through district-wide summer PD. On a Saturday at Cherry Valley, we additionally brought in Jen Jones, whose framework is aligned with Jan Richardson to offer personalized professional learning for our teachers, and then continued to offering internal PD throughout the school year. Teachers who demonstrated a solid understanding of the guided reading framework began leading internal PD for their colleagues. Going into year 2, we wanted to provide consistent guided reading instruction for all grades. Therefore, we needed to make sure every teacher had high-quality resources and necessary materials to teach guided reading. We purchased literacy footprints, guided reading notebooks, picture cards, letter trays, and the Jan Richardson Word Study Book for each classroom. We wanted to make sure we were also including Reading Horizon skills in our small group instruction and using our universal MAP screener, so we began utilizing MAP skills to track student progress. We use the data from MAP skills reports to target foundational skill gaps and address them through small group instruction. We also made sure that our foundational skills were transferring to all areas including word study, reading, and writing. Throughout this year, we were consistently evaluating our practices and made sure we were refining our instruction through ongoing modeling, coaching, and feedback. For the current school year, we wanted to be more intentional in our small group instructional practices. We wanted to be intentional about where we were starting off instruction with students, as well as intentional with how we were grouping students. We differentiated the groupings by not only their guided reading level, but also by their word study level. In order to do that, instructional coaches, title teachers, and administration looked at the progression of reading horizon skills, foundational skills, and word study to make sure that students were mastering skills prior to moving on. We developed a word study skills progression that incorporated reading horizons and word study into guided reading. Teachers are able to use this skills progression to identify focus skills, use a pre-assessment for correct placement, clearly identify lessons for instruction, then use formative checks for progress monitoring, and establish mastery criteria for moving on to the next level. Teachers began to make database decisions on placements in instruction based on both guided reading levels and word study levels. This data allows teams to group students across their grade level, as well as group them vertically between grade levels to support enrichment. Small group instruction uses a consistent routine for teaching new words. Here's an example video showing how students learn new words.
C-O-M-E. Come. Mix it. Fix it. Quick, fix it, fix it, fix it. Good job, Mark. C-O-M-E. Come. Come. What's missing? Oh. C-O.
In addition to teaching sight word instruction, students engage in various word study activities such as sound boxes, picture sorts, and analogy charts. These activities reinforce foundational skills in learning new words. Since having a consistent format for providing guided reading and word study, we began utilizing rubrics for implementation coaching. Guided grade level teams have participated in coaching cycles. Our instructional coaches work with individual teachers to model lessons, and we utilize rubrics to provide feedback and set ongoing goals. We also continue to use small group instruction to support our equity challenge. We work on targeted skills during our after-school program, Rockstar Academy, that serves our targeted underperforming subgroups of students. Looking forward to next year, we expect to continue building our momentum in consistently providing targeted skill-based small group instruction. We will continue to coach teachers and provide ongoing feedback to teachers through a regular cadence of coaching cycles around guided reading. Our metrics used to measure success in small group instruction will be: teachers will score at least 80% on the guided reading rubric, and as a school, we expect 100% of our teachers doing guided reading and word study following the Jan Richardson model. Here's some data that shows our progress towards reaching the universal goal of all third grade students reading at grade level by the end of third grade. We've made improvements from 60% to 83% of third grade students reading at grade level. For our current school year, at end of trimester 2, we currently have 74% of our third grade graders reading at grade level. We project that by the end of the school year, we will be between 76 and 90% of third grade students reading at level. Thank you. Thank you. We have been also tracking our homegrown data, which is students who've been at Cherry Valley for all of their years of schooling. And our current data shows that the percent of homegrown students reading at or above grade level outperforms our non-homegrown students. The homegrown data shows that when students consistently receive literacy instruction at Cherry Valley Elementary, they will score an average of about 2 reading levels higher than their non-homegrown peers. When students are with us, we are confident we will get them to be reading on grade level by the end of third grade. This is attributed to our hard work towards providing best practices in small group literacy instruction. So anytime you might want to come and observe a whole session of it, you're welcome to come on out to Cherry Valley, and that's all we have for tonight, so thank you.
And thank you so much, and for all the support that you've got with you. Thank you for coming tonight as well. And literacy is the foundation, I mean, right? That's the core. That's what we're here about. If kids can't read, they can't learn all the other subjects that we're working on. So it's exciting to see what you've done and what you've done just with your staff in your school. So thank you. We're now at the petitions and communications portion of our meeting, where we invite the public to make comments. The Illinois School Code requires there be a time at regular and special meetings for public comment. The board will not respond to comments at this time, and if it is appropriate, you'll be contacted in a timely manner by staff in response to your questions. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board. It's not appropriate to address individual board members or individual administrators or discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential in such open meetings. 2 names will be called at one time, the one whose turn it is to speak and the person who will speak next. When you're the second person, please come to the front, sit in the vacant chair. That way we'll be able to vote the maximum amount of time public comment. If you look to your left, you'll see 2 digital clocks. One shows the total time allotted to public comment, and one shows the total time for each speaker. We thank you for your interest and for your cooperation with our guidelines. First speaker tonight will be Antonio Turno. Is it T-U-R Turner? Okay, well, you can pronounce it for us again with the microphone on, if you would, please, sir. And if you come on up, I think that mic should still be on, maybe? Did you turn it off? So if you could turn it back on, sir, we appreciate it. The next speaker will be Latricia Smith.
All right. I currently mentor a student at Auburn High School who is up for expulsion from 3-4-22 to 6-9-23 for fighting category 4. A student who was clearly trying to avoid a situation that previously went on for approximately 7 minutes with no teacher intervention while a teacher was present. A situation instigated by peers who admitted to instigating the situation in witness statements, a physical altercation that was started by another student who admitted they started the physical altercation. Video evidence that shows student trying to avoid the situation proves he is not the aggressor or as stated in his hearing packet. My question is, why are we allowing students of color to be unequitably punished because of lack of interventions that coincides with Senate 100 bill? Why was the first administrator removed from disciplinary action when they suggested student be suspended for a period of 4 days due to zero tolerance and that student was trying to avoid altercation? When this student's mother called up there the day after to ask to speak with said administrator, she was then advised that the administrator was no longer handling the situation and was microaggressively asked by administrator, how does she know her and what relation is she to her? Why is there no report from the teacher who was in the classroom when this incident took place? Why did the administrator report differently from the witnesses' statements that were in the classroom? Another thing is, why are hearing officers rushing parents to find adequate legal representation when they are searching for the best interests of their children to be placed in best position possible? The student I mentor, disciplinary file, has 2 tardies and has been in 2 physical altercations with video documentation showing him being bullied and assaulted first in both situations without any interventions. My mentee feels and believes that 205 has allowed him to be bullied and refuses to protect him and have not provided any interventions, leaving him in a position of vulnerability to defend himself and become labeled as the villain and the offender.
Thank you. Appreciate your stepping up. And
I would like to get contact information for everyone so I can send them evidence and video.
okay. All the board members' contact information is on our RPS 205 website right under Board of Education. So all the emails are on there. Would that be adequate? That's fine. Okay, so if you just go on RPS 205 website under Board of Education and you just click and we all have, or you can send it to the secretary. I'm sorry, the coordinator, and she can send it to us, so whichever works better for you. Next is Latricia Smith, followed by Terry Gano.
Good evening. Why is my son being exposed and he has a 504 plan and it's not being utilized properly? My son has received referral after referral and no one has given him any interventions. And his 504 documents, wait, hold on. Upon being exposed, sorry, I'm nervous. Upon being exposed, I asked the hearing officer and the principal if I could get documentation of his interventions. They were not able to give them. Also, I want to ask, why is it that when you do the hearing, they don't give you time? I asked for legal time, and when I went back, they told me I didn't have enough time, and I was forced to basically say that he can be exposed. And upon that, I asked, could they give me more time? They told me no, I had 7 days, and I asked them if I left and to seek more legal, what would happen, and they told me that they would go on with the hearing without me. So I was basically forced and manipulated. Also, I asked, could I record, and the hearing officer told me that I could record, and upon me not being able to record on my phone, he mentioned to me that I could get a copy of the audio. And upon me going to get the copy and giving the documents that he asked, they told me that I could not get the audio. So my question is, why wasn't I able to get the audio when he told me that I could get it? Is it something that they know that they messed up on? Or, I mean, what is it? He should have known the laws and he should have known the policies, and he should not have told me that I was able to get that document. Also, my son is now in ROPE, which is an alternative where he gets work. No work is being presented to him. We're calling the teachers, calling the principals, the ROPE is calling them, which is Roosevelt. There's no work being presented to him. So now he's continuing to fail. So my question is, why are they failing these kids and not using and utilizing their 504 plans and just giving them referral after referral and not giving them the stuff that they need, the help that they need?
So you've asked for staff to follow up, and I'll pass this card on. Thank you for being here. It is difficult to stand up there, and you did great. Our last speaker is Terry Gano. Terry, is it Gano or Gano? Help me out.
Gano.
It is Gano, right?
So my name is Terry Gano.
Thank you.
And I'm a member of Eliminate Racism 815. One of the concerns that we've been looking into is the lack of black teachers in our schools. Currently, there are only 66 black teachers in the school out of the district, out of 1,663 teachers. Whatever efforts the district has made over the past 10 years has not worked well. The number of black teachers during that time period has actually decreased from 5% to 4%. The following are some suggestions for improving the situation. Solution number one, incentivize in some fashion those who have the power to make decisions about the hiring of black teachers. Solution two, incentivize new recruits and in-service teachers to come to Rockford to be a part of the teaching force in the RPS schools. The home purchase program is a great start. The question is, how effective has it been, and how many teachers recruits have taken advantage of the program? Solution three, provide Dr. Brunson with any and all resources she needs to increase the number of RPS students in the Educational Pathways program. Additionally, we'd like to know, as of spring 22 semester, how many total RPS students are currently enrolled in the Pathways program at Rockford University. And Dr. Jarrett said he'd get that up to us. Solution 4, provide ongoing support, mentoring for Black teachers who currently work in the Rockford or those who come to Rockford to alleviate the lone man on the island syndrome felt by many Black teachers. Solution 5, work with and support any efforts by the ISBE to alter the testing that pre-service teachers are required to take to earn their teaching license and are highly biased against Black teacher candidates. Solution 6, work towards a goal where every student will have at least one Black teacher for every year of their time in the RPS schools. Solution 7, interview past RPS dropouts and frequent flyer students, those who've been disciplined multiple times, to get their perspective on why there is such a lack of Black teachers in RPS and the impact that they have had in their RPS schools. Diversifying the RPS workforce must be treated as an act of social justice, ensuring all RPS students that they see themselves reflected in any and all aspects of their educational experiences while students at RPS. Thank you.
We're now on to board member comments. Do any of the board members have comments? Ms. Muhammad?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everybody that took time out of their schedule to provide us with your feedback tonight, especially the two individuals that mention your concerns about disciplinary actions. And I just want to verbally say that not only do I thank you, but I will be making sure that I will assist in any way that I can with making sure that you guys get a follow-up, because these are things that I have voiced concern with myself. And again, I just want to thank you for bringing this raw information to the board. Oftentimes, individually, we'll get contacted about these types of issues, and we do follow up. But very rarely do we have the additional feedback at the board meetings when it comes to community members and parents. So I know it's not easy getting up in front of us. It can be intimidating. And just want to thank y'all again.
Ms. Pearson?
Thank you. I have a long overdue thank you to Pastor Martin of Providence Baptist Church. It is a delayed thank you, but he took time out of his schedule to have a conversation with me, and I certainly appreciate his willingness and the ideas that he shared in the conversation that we had. He expressed that he had been in contact and had conversations with our chief communication person, Mr. Earl Dawson Jr., which does not surprise me. But I wanted to extend a thank you, and I look forward to continuing to bridge the gap. I want the community to know that I certainly appreciate you coming and being in attendance on tonight. I'm going to reintroduce myself. I am Denise Pearson for Subdistrict A. And the high school in Subdistrict A is Auburn. So it is always helpful to have information to effectively be proactive and problem solving. So I am always available, and as our president indicated, you can find my information on the website. Thank you.
Mr. Siegel?
Thank you. I also wish to thank the people who came here tonight to speak. This is a public forum, and I would encourage more people to take their opportunity to make their voices heard in regards to the education of our students. Also want to thank the team from Cherry Valley Elementary for coming tonight to present. Getting our third graders on track is really the key to the success of all of our students across the district. We talk about middle school on track, freshmen on track, graduation rates. All of those things are immediately impacted by our younger students being able to read and achieve at grade level. I hope that this is a model that gets into every school across the district with the same or greater sort of success that is being exhibited at Cherry Valley. I applaud you for your efforts and for your success, and thank you for coming tonight to share. I hope this is something that, again, makes it all the way across the district.
Any other board member comments? I'm just going to do kudos for, we had the State Board of Education here 2 weeks ago, and we really looked good. I was so impressed with the presentation done by our administration and all the departments. Everybody was able to sum up what they do, and just it was really nice. And I know that they went away thinking that we're doing our best, and we're trying to move forward, and we're being thoughtful, and we're being proactive, and trying to come up with solutions and work with many areas. So I thank Dr. Jarrett and his team, and Ms. Fromm, and everybody who put together that presentation, because it is nice to be recognized by the rest of the state as being a great place to be. So I think I pass the floor to Dr. Jarrett for any superintendent comments.
I'm going to be ceding the majority of my time to Kylie, who is our student representative tonight. As has been a tradition, we have a different student from the Superintendent Student Advisory Council represent the board meetings throughout the month, and then at the last meeting of the month speak. Before she dives in, I do want to provide just a really positive update. We just received information on our NIU LEAP cohort, as well as our Rockford University Pathway cohort, and we'll provide some more detailed information. But there's been a frequent conversation about the district's efforts to provide a high quality and diverse workforce, and I think there's some obvious room for improvement in our district's efforts in these areas. But the NIU LEAP cohort is a group of current RPS employees. Some are paraprofessionals, some are attendance specialists, and other roles. And this group are folks that have an associate's degree but do not yet have a bachelor's degree in teaching, but have great experiences working with parents and students. The first two cohorts have launched, one in February and one is going to launch a few months from now. Of the 29 applicants that we have in those two pools, 10 are African American, 3 are Hispanic, and 16 are white. So we have 13 of 29 individuals who represent our desire to provide not only high quality applicants of all 29, but providing a diverse applicant pool. The Rockford University Pathway under Jason Pope and Dr. Brunson's leadership is also thriving. We have really worked hard to build a strong, high quality and diverse cohort. Rockford University, to give them some recognition, allowed us to exceed our typical number of 20 applicants and allowed us to have 26 students be accepted in this year's program. Of those 26 students, 6 are African American, 10 are Hispanic, and 10 are white. So we have 16 of the 26 are, all 26 I think are incredibly high quality future educators, and 16 are going to be future educators of color in our district. So I think those were positive steps, but much more work to do. But I did want to shout out Dr. Brunson and Jason Pope and their team for really, I think, dramatically improving the outcomes of that particular program. I also want to give some recognition to our Cherry Valley team. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all of your hard work with literacy and for bringing the team here tonight. So keep up the great work. And now I want to turn it over to the star of the superintendent's report tonight, Kylie.
Okay. So from the previous meeting that I attended, which was 2 weeks ago, there was some talk about a program called Handle with Care, and then there was somebody that talked about students trying to find their sense of belonging. And I personally noticed in my school that we aren't too bad with it, but we are. Around the freshman and sophomore level, not many can find a sense of belonging. And there's been a lot of fighting, not a lot of peace, but towards the junior and senior level, there's more maturity there and they're more comfortable. So, but starting my freshman year, we had this thing called a circle, where we'd have it every Monday and every Friday. And the teacher would ask a question, and you could either pass or you could actually answer it. And throughout the year, it helped everybody understand depending on the question, everybody's background or how this person feels or what they're going through. And it started becoming a thing because we started doing it more my senior year in my AP psychology, and AP English class, and they make sure to do it, and it's helped impact like my senior class very well because we understand better. But the freshman class, they're not really like connected. And I know lower grades, like middle school level, they're trying to find a way to belong as well. And I know with the Handle with Care that they're gonna tell like staff members stuff that like serious that's happening in their life. And I know the circle could help because I've had one of my principals, Mr. Guzmano, he actually has come in on one of the circles and asked us for advice on how we could help the lower levels be more comfortable and less violence. Because even with the Handle with Care, as like individuals, it can help them like be more comfortable with classmates and talk to them even if they can't talk to an adult. Because I know some like students will feel like overwhelmed or overbeared with like people trying to care, because some do need time and space, but sometimes there's like staff members that can overdo their part, but sometimes not. But I know it's helped me personally, like be able to even like talk to more classmates and make friends better, and feel like I can talk to staff and like the staff and students better because they understand. But I feel like having circles could be like contributing to helping with those other things.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Appreciate your being here. We're now on to report and action items that proceeded through the Planning and Development Committee, and I think we have a budget request from schools team report, so I'll give the floor to Mr. Gallagher.
Okay, good evening, everyone. In presenting the schools team budget, this will be turn on. There we go. This will cover goals 1, 3, and 4, so growth and achievement, optimal climate, and quality staff. The departments that will be included in tonight's presentation of the schools team budget will be the budgets for the schools, as well as the budget with the chief of schools, which includes the elementary and secondary support, and then additionally special programs. Just a quick overview of the schools team. Myself as chief of schools, I have an executive assistant with our team, Jody Scow, and then we have 4 executive directors. Together, we all supervise the principals at the 41 schools plus 3 charter. And just to see the current year breakdown of what that supervision looks like, this outlines who is overseeing which schools. One shift that we will have for next year is that our executive director for school improvement, Susan Fumo, will take on an elevated role. She will also be a principal supervisor, and this will allow us to better disperse the amount of supervision that we have over the schools so that we can provide more intensive targeted supports with a smaller supervisor to schools ratio. What I'd really like to highlight in presenting the budget tonight is the student-based budget. Here you can see the 3 clusters of bars. The first smallest one is the student-based budget. That is followed by the grants that includes Title I and Illinois Empower. And then that last tallest one, our tallest cluster, is the combination of that student-based budget with those grant dollars. All of these dollars together, the student-based budget with the grant dollars, represents the discretionary funds that the schools have available within their budgets. We had moved towards student-based budgeting 4 years ago when we had initially started. There was a pool of of roughly $4 million that was available as discretionary funds spread across all 41 schools, and that has since grown to just under $27 million for the next school year. And within this pie, you can see the distribution of where these funds are sourced. Seeing for the 41 schools, a budget summary here, you can see salary and benefits. There is a variance or a growth of roughly $9 million. That is based off of our contracts that we had negotiated with REA, and it is assuming a 3% increase for salaries for the non-REA staff that would be included here. And then just something different this year, because when we're presenting the schools-based budgets, the discretionary dollars, it was new that we're including in the pie the grant dollars so that you're able to capture the full picture of the discretionary dollars that are available to the schools. So whereas the total Fund 10 amount that the schools would have at their discretion would fall to roughly $218 million, when you factor in the Title I and Illinois Empower grants that are roughly $19 million, you get a total schools package of $237 million. I do want to clarify, though, when you are looking at this initial pie, this is really showing all of the discretionary dollars that approaches at roughly $27 million. But because we are including salary and benefits on here as well, which is the total amount of allocations based off of enrollment, that's giving you the full picture of the schools-based budget. We have two new requests for the schools next year. Both of them are for 10-month assistant principals. The first one would be a 10-month assistant principal at Auburn that would oversee their Kappa and Gifted academies. The reason for that request is that Auburn has 7 total academies compared to the 5 total academies at the other 3 traditional high schools. And by having the same allocation of assistant principals, but having a greater number of academies, that diminishes the amount of support that those assistant principals are able to provide their academies. And that diminishes not only for what Kappa and Gifted is able to receive, but also for what those students that are attending Auburn as their neighborhood school are able to receive. So adding this allocation would be an equitable increase in allocations so that we're able to serve the greater number of academies at Auburn accordingly. And then additionally, there's a request for a second assistant principal at Roosevelt Community Education Center. If you look at the enrollment at Roosevelt over the last 5 years, it is effectively doubled, and that is just for the high school program. We're looking to expand the number of students that we're also serving at Roosevelt through the Roosevelt Opportunities Program. And in addition to the almost double enrollment that we're seeing at the high school level, Roosevelt has included the early childhood program, which includes a total of 80 students that are being served in the morning and afternoon sessions there. So just based off of the growth of Roosevelt students in the high school program, the addition of the early childhood program, the expansion of the Roosevelt Opportunities Program, I believe that it's warranted that they would require a additional second for a total of 2, let me clarify, assistant principals that would be there at Roosevelt. If you were to compare Roosevelt's enrollment relative to other schools and their allocation of assistant principals, Roosevelt serves approximately 800 total students over the course of a year in the high school program. Additionally, there are the 80 students in the early childhood program. There's usually about 120 students that are served in the adult education / GED program. And then they also operate a daycare program, which this year is bursting at the seams in terms of the kids that they are serving in both the infant and the toddler room. Putting all those numbers together for the total amount of students served would approximate one of the middle schools where they would have 3 assistant principals. What we're asking for at Roosevelt is for them to just have a second assistant principal. Moving on to the schools team. Here, where we have the elementary and secondary support under the schools team, you can see what the total cost is there. There is a nominal variance, an increase of $18,000. And with regards to our contracts, the largest one that is under our budget is the principal residency program that we are now partnering with U46, hosted by NIU. You can see that there's a variance or a savings of a projected $158,000 there. That is for two parts. The first one is that thus far we've had a smaller number of applicants to cohort 3 that will start next year. The second part is that with this cohort 3, we have been able to negotiate with NIU where we will be able to use tuition waivers that we have as a district to offset the cost of tuition for cohort 3. Each of those tuition waivers, if you give me a moment, it's approximately 490 total waivers that we have, each of them worth $362 and change. So that's $177,000 that we would be able to apply to cohort 3 and beyond, even for offsetting the cost for cohort 4. When you look at the contract for Illinois Principal Association and the coaching mentoring that they provide to our first and second year administrators, we are projecting that to be $80,000 for next year. However, that does not include the fact that the Illinois State Board of Education is utilizing ARP ESSER dollars and making them available to offset the cost of contracting with the IPA across all districts in the state for similar coaching and mentoring. So we were able to get a savings of roughly $16,000 for this current school year that were cut off the cost of our contract, and we expect that a minimum of $40,000 out of that $80,000 projected for next year will be reimbursable through contracting with ISB and what they're making available in their ARP ESSER funds. There are no new requests under the Chief of Schools department. With regards to special programs, just some highlights of how that money is spent. Of course, with the different programs that we have, they follow differentiated curriculum, which requires them to invest in different materials and different professional learning for each of the special programs. And then there's also support that is built in for items like Kappa auditions, gifted testing, and lottery programs at a couple of the special program schools. Here, again, you should see a nominal variance from this current fiscal year into next year, and most of that would be in relation to salary and benefits. These are contracts that are housed under the special programs budget. And again, these are primarily contracts that relate to the special programming that is offered at, say, Montessori or Barber, but then to the coaching mentoring that's provided by the IPA in relation to any of the administrators that would fall under special programs falls under their budget, where it's $20,000 there, most likely will be reimbursed for a minimum of half of that. And then finally, special programs budget support, some new requests. Both of these relate to the getting off the ground the International Baccalaureate program. So it would be to be able to hire a principal that would start July 1st. And in next fiscal year, that principal would do much of the work for getting the program off the ground, identifying the professional learning that's needed, getting the curricular supports in place, doing recruiting for the staff, and the expectation would be that the program would not start, of course, next fiscal year, but in FY24. And you can see in the rationale there too that the principal would not necessarily need to be working in a full-time capacity exclusively in relation to the work of getting the International Baccalaureate program up and running, but that it could be offset by having that principal be available as an administrator sub, which is something that we are very much in short supply of within the district. And then below the request for the principal, you can see what some of that initial first-year startup cost would be. And that is everything that I have to present. Can I field any questions?
Ms. Mohammed.
On page 11, where you mentioned the request for the AP at Auburn, has there ever in the past been an AP for Kappa and for Gifted?
This current year, they have their 12-month AP who is serving over the Kappa and Gifted academies. That would not be the case at one of the other high schools. If you looked at Guilford, East, or Jefferson, their 12-month would not be necessarily affiliated like that. They would be more freed up.
So are there certain struggles that have been reported to you with the current AP, like them having to oversee the special programs along with the neighborhood programs?
Yes.
Can you share some? I'm curious.
In developing the rationale for this request, I did speak with their current 12-month AP, Jonathan Gates. He is actually moving back to the classroom next year. He'll be a special education teacher at Auburn. And I have talked with other previous 12-month APs that have had the responsibility of doing that 12-month curriculum work for the entire school, coupled with doing all the master scheduling and having to be over both the Kappa and the Gifted. And just generally speaking, it stretches them thin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other lights. I have a question. I have two questions, actually. I would tag on to your question about the Auburn, an extra AP out there. Do we have, I mean, I understand that we have divided them into an additional academy, but what about the numbers of students at that school compared to the other schools? Is there a higher enrollment figure there?
No, but I would argue that there are different responsibilities that go with the Kappa and Gifted programs. So similar to as when I was just presenting with the special programs, the amount of work that goes into Kappa auditions and putting on the performances that they have throughout the year, as well as the different requirements that they have with the Gifted academies, just create some unique responsibilities that don't exist with other academies.
And there is a crossover of students who are in Auburn in Gifted and Kappa, so I expect that it'll be a smaller academy, or will it not?
I would not want to speak towards the exact breakdown of the numbers for the academies. I don't have that prepared in front of me, but I would be happy to share that with you after.
That'd be great. And what it's like at the other schools, just so that we have a global perspective.
Certainly.
My other question was about the Illinois Principals Association. I saw for the special programs, the $20,000 for the coaching and mentoring with the Principals Association. And are we doing that across the district with mentoring our principals? Because I know at one point we had a program. I've heard from principals, newer principals, that there isn't the support. We heard some conversation from, at least I have, from community members who say that principals, especially new principals, aren't getting the mentoring and support that they needed. So we're not just doing that in special programs, right? Are we doing that across the district?
No, I'm sorry. Let me clarify. So if you look on slide 14, that shows the amount of money that is in the separate department budget for elementary and secondary schools. So there's $80,000 projected there for support for first and second year deans, assistant principals, and principals within the district. And that would be even, say, a first year principal who is new principal but not new to the district, who maybe had been an assistant principal 3 or 4 years prior within the district. They would qualify for this support. That $20,000 you saw on special programs is just earmarked for any of the new deans, APs, or principals first, second year that would be under special programs.
So we have 80,000 for the entire district and 20,000 for special programs for mentoring is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes, but again, we expect that out of that total $100,000 that we will be reimbursed for a minimum of $50,000 for next year.
No, it's not the reimbursement. I'm just wondering how we're covering it. That's all. I just think that it's a need. Principals need that mentoring, and I just don't see, just from the outside looking in, how you can cover a whole district other than the 4 or 5, the special programs with that difference in money.
I can tell you that I am in the process of preparing an update to cabinet and would be happy to share in a board update where we just did an annual survey of all the principals that received the IPA mentoring. Of 16 respondents that I have thus far, 15 of them scored a 4 or a 5 on a 5-point scale for the quality of the mentoring that they receive. And I think just looking at the anecdotal feedback that they had provided, what they appreciate most is having a mentor that doesn't evaluate or supervise them, that they can go to discuss their experiences or their
I'm supportive of the mentoring.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the distribution of the mentors across the district. That's all. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes, I have a question, and I do apologize. I had to step out for a moment, so I apologize if you're having to repeat yourself. But in regards to the assistant principals at Auburn, do you foresee any restructuring of the current assistant principals? I understand there were some administrative leaves going on at Auburn for whatever reason. Do you foresee any restructuring or changes with the current assistant principals at Auburn?
I don't know if I'm at liberty to speak in open session with regards to any particular principals and what their movement would be, whether there's going to be some transition of some assistant principals at Auburn. I know that there will be some movement. With regards to restructuring how their administrative team operates at Auburn, certainly will look different with the addition of this additional assistant principal. How that would impact the roles and responsibilities of the entire admin team is something that would have to be worked out through the Auburn team's leadership of Jenny Keffer, their principal, in concert with myself as the supervisor over Auburn.
Thank you, and I certainly respect you needing to be conservative in your speech. So I'll just express my concerns with a additional assistant principal with the possible lack of need in terms of numbers and what that will look like once that person come aboard. And when it appears that there is additions made, typically in organizations, there's a restructuring, especially if the numbers does not add up to the need. So that I just want to state that concern for it to be noted in regards to assistant principals at Auburn. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't see any other green lights. So, Mr. Rollins, are there any other follow-up items from your committee?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. We're now on to a consent, and thank you very much.
Thank you all.
So our do we have 2 follow-ups? It's numbers of APs across the different academies across the district was the one follow-up we'll look at the end. We're on to the consent portion of our meeting, which includes items previewed by the board committee chairs during the committee of the whole. From Performance and Monitoring Committee, we have payroll, accounts payable, purchase orders, air travel, construction pay request log, monthly cash and investment report from February of 2022, financial results from February of 2022, the HVAC and roofing bid for Lincoln East, Washington, and Flynn, the security vestibule renovations bid for Carlson Bayer, Rolling Green and Fairview, and the asbestos abatement at Riverdale and West bids. We also have from the Government's Committee the meeting minutes from 3/8/22, the contract purchase orders, the Freedom of Information log. I'd entertain a motion and a second to approve these consent items.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any consent items board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Mr. Rollins.
7H.
Okay. Anyone else? Please call the roll on the approval of the consent items other than 7H.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
I would now entertain a motion for item 7H, which is the HVAC and roofing at Lincoln East, Washington, and Flynn bid.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Discussion on that, Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, one's just a comment, and one I do have an actual question, but the comment is I just didn't think we should spend $71 million without probably saying something about it. So this is what the ARP ESSER money at work, and this is going to be the cost of doing HVAC and some roofing work at 4 of the schools, and it's $71 million. The question I've got is the estimated budget amount was $53 million. It looks like it's coming in at $71 million. Does anybody have an explanation for that? And it does say something that I guess it's saying the excess is coming out of program contingency, but is this an indication that our costs are going to be higher than we were originally estimating?
Mr. Rollins, yes. The bids came in approximately 30% higher than our rough order of magnitude estimates. I think, a number of factors with inflation that we've experienced since December and some other events has caused increases. We also, have challenges with the number of folks bidding just because of the projects going on across the region.
Are we getting concerned that we may not be able to do all the work we initially thought we were going to get done?
So our team is working with our program manager along with our engineering teams to specifically address these 4 projects from a value engineering standpoint to see what monies we could possibly claw back. But that is definitely something we will be looking and working with our teams to see where we are going to end up going forward. There is a possibility at the end that we may want to invest some of our own money potentially to finish up the projects that we currently have planned, but we will be reviewing our current design as well as our phase 2 and phase 3 designs to better get these things into line.
Okay, thanks.
Seeing no other lights, I'll have I'm sorry. Hello, Mr. Connor, please.
Yeah, Mr. Phillips, could you address the overall needs from the roofing and HVAC standpoint and the actual condition, in particular at Lincoln East and Washington, although it's probably also true with Flynn, but I mean, one thing is for absolute certain is the first 3 are some of the oldest buildings we've got in the district.
Yeah, Mr. Connor, we are definitely addressing our 4 oldest buildings, our legacy buildings here in this round of construction. We are also addressing a number of deferred maintenance items that were brought up during our facilities condition assessment. So while we are having having the added benefit of air conditioning in 100% of our classrooms, we are really addressing a number of our pieces of aging equipment, and we'll be improving our indoor air quality throughout the buildings. And that'll be the case in all projects.
Right. I think the thing that I'd like to point out is that these are some, not all, but these are some of the oldest buildings we've got. And if you remember way back when, years ago, we talked about air conditioning, and one of the points of the ARP ESSER funds was to address air quality in the buildings. And let's not forget that that's not just an abstract concept, that students and faculty, staff are in those buildings, and learning needs to take place, and either we're going to commit to those or we're not. And my sense of it is that if we were to try to rebuild, one of those, the cost would be in the, $100 million plus range, without a doubt. And so one of the things that we're left with is that we have some rather old buildings. Lincoln is 1924-ish, or 3, 4. Yeah. And so my point would be that these are expensive, and we know it's expensive. Number one, we have federal funding, which is going to help us with this. Number two, if you remember that during the pandemic period, one of the concentrations was on the quality of the air for students, faculty, and obviously visitors and so forth. So the environment for education was really at the center of this. So I'm reminding people, because these are big ticket items, and we've got other schools where this will also become apparent. And remind us, when was the assessment of the buildings done?
The facilities condition assessment was done in 2020.
Okay. And so really that set the tone and the direction for a lot of the emphasis on the older buildings. So one of the things we would also say is that not all, but I would say a lot of the buildings that are newer don't have some of the needs because they're already air conditioned. And if everybody memory serves, one of the biggest complaints we've had, I've been on the board almost 9 years, and that is one of the biggest complaints we've had from everybody throughout that time, is the lack of air conditioning. So I'm just reminding people, these are big dollars, but we're a big district, and there's a lot about the quality of education, I think, that we need to consider in these. So,
thank you. I was just remarking to Mr. Rollins, I think when we used to have a facilities committee, and 10 years ago or so, and we did plan and we looked at what air conditioning would cost for the buildings that weren't air conditioned. I mean, it was like $25 million across the district. So to see for 4 buildings to have it at 71.
Yeah, 10 years ago it was probably that much. And I think, what was our last estimate? It was over $50 million.
Well, remember, we're doing the roofs, we're doing a ton of the deferred.
Yeah,
exactly.
no,
So
this is not a complaint. It's
right.
just a sign of the times, is
I think
my point.
The point is the costs, and to Ms. Phillips' point earlier, anybody who, as they say, has filled up a gas tank knows what inflation is doing, and that, of course, pings through everything, food, everything. So there should be no question about materials, but let's also say that the cost of people and the pressures on getting enough people, getting enough carpenters, getting enough plumbers and so forth, is really difficult. So the costs are not going to go down on any of this.
Yeah, the point was just how times have changed, and here's where we're at, and if we're going to do it, and we do have a timeline. The other point is that we have a timeline on which to spend the money, so we have to do it during this time, and so do all those other places who are not bidding because they're overwhelmed with other jobs. So, yeah, thank you. So is there I guess that's everybody, right? So we will have the coordinator call the roll on item 7H.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed? Oh, okay. Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
The vote passes with 6 yeses, 1 absent from the vote.
Thank you. Well, we're now at the closed consent or session consent agenda, and that includes the following. The appointment of Andrew Lippert as a 12-month interim technology services director. General counsel salary increase, the superintendent's salary increase, the salary adjustment for non-bargaining employees correction, notice to remedy for Ann Connor, the HR organizational report and addendum, and the following closed session consent items for discipline. 2058 will be expelled for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year through the entire 23 school year. 4463 will be expelled for the remainder of the 22 school year through the entire 23 school year. $44.68 will be expelled for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. $44.73 will be the expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement for the remainder of the 21-22 school year through the entire 22-23 school year. $44.74, the expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement for the remainder of the 21-22 school year through the entire 22-23 school year. $44.75, the expulsion is held in abeyance through 2022-23 school year, which can be terminated upon the successful completion of the step-up program. $44.77 is expelled for the remainder of the 21-22 school year through the entire 22-23 school year. $44.78 is expelled through the entire 21-22 school year through the entire 22-23 school year and the entire 23-24 school year. $44.79, the expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. $44.80 is expelled for the remainder of the 21-22 school year through the entire 22-23 school year. $44.81 is expelled through the entire 21-22 school year, the entire 22-23 school year, and the entire 23-24 school year. $44.82 is expelled for 2 calendar years from the date of board action today, March 29th. That would be through March 29th of 2024. $44.83 is expelled for the remainder of the 21-22 school year and the entire 22-23 school year. $44.84 is expelled for the remainder of the 21-22 school year and the entire 22-23 school year. $44.85 is expelled for the remainder of the 21-22 school year and the entire 22-23 school year. 5015, the 7-day suspension and 1 day of SILE is affirmed by this board. The closed session consent agenda items for EIAs are for the following to support the EIAs as entered into with families: 8470, 8481, 8482, 8483, 8484, 8485, 8486, 8487, 8488, 8489, 8490, 8491, 8492, 8494, 8495, 8496, 8497, 8498, 8499, 8501. Is there a motion and a second to approve the closed session consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any consent items from closed that the board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Ms. Mohammed?
10A, 10B, 10D, and 10J.
And 10J?
Yes.
And can I take those as a group, or shall I take them each separate?
The group is fine.
Thank you. Any other lights on? Seeing none, I'll have the coordinator call the rolls except for the items that have been pulled.
Ms. Mohammed?
No.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson,
Abstain?
Mr. Rollins.
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstain.
All right, I'm going to take a motion and a second for the following items. These would be student 2058, 4463, 4473, and 4480.
So moved.
Second.
And no discussion, so would the coordinator please call the roll?
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson,
Abstain?
Mr. Rollins,
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed.
No.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstain.
Let's see, are there any other business the board members wish to bring forward? We'll look forward to the follow-up from the schools team, and I don't think there's any, did anybody else ask for any other information? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Same side? We are adjourned at 8:22.